Welcome back to my reading. So I did take a little bit of a break because I did get busy with work and I was trying to find some kind of schedule that would work for me, which I did think I found, but we're just going to see how it goes. So if you haven't guessed by the title of the reading, or let me reword that. So you can probably guess what the reading is going to be about by the title of the video. As usual, we have pile number 1, 2, and 3. I do have timestamps down below for those of you guys who just want to skip down to the reading. But before I get started on that, I did want to do a quick energy healing or a cleansing before we start with the selenite wand here. So for those of you guys who don't know about selenite, and this is also the same for blue kyanite, selenite is a self-cleansing crystal. It's kind of like the soap of the crystal world, where it helps cleanse other crystals and also yourself and just other stagnant or negative energies, but it doesn't retain those negative energies. So you don't have to go out of your way to clean selenite. Even though you can, it's really unnecessary. It's kind of like the same thing of cleaning soap with another soap or something like that. So it's gonna just cleanse the energy real quick here. Okay. So for our 3 piles, pile number 1, we have lapis lazuli. So lapis lazuli is it's a blue crystal, so most blue crystals are good for throat chakras, which is good for self-expression. It also has healing properties. By the way, I just looked this stuff up like 5 minutes ago because, to be honest, I'm not that well versed in crystals, but I do want to learn a little bit more about them so I can kind of use more of them, or at least use them to their full potential. So lapis lazuli is also for inner wisdom, intuition, and I feel like intuition is what some of these readings are going to touch or tap into as well. So that's for lapis lazuli. And even though I'm explaining the properties of these crystals, you don't have to choose the pile based on the crystal meaning. Just go with your gut feeling or what feels right to you. Labradorite, I'll look more into this one, which I'm going to do by the time I get to the 2 piles. And then we have radiolated quartz. So when I got this, I was told that it's good for problem solving, I think, or like what's the word I'm looking for? Not managing stress, although it could be used for that, but it's more so like, problem solving, working through issues, maybe asking your angels and guides for help. So I go a little bit deeper into the crystal meanings, but that just depends on how it goes. I'm trying to do something a little bit different with crystals here. Okay, so as usual, feel free to pick 1, 2, 3, maybe 2 or all 3. I get started on number 1 in just a few moments. Okay, pile number 1. For those of you guys who chose lapis lazuli. do the oracle cards. I know they're kind of off screen. I am missing a card. Okay, what card was that? Okay, so luckily I write down my notes for the cards and for the readings, so I know what card is missing from the pile. Okay, now we can start it on number 1 with the lapis lazuli, which I said before is good for wisdom, intuition, healing past traumas, which we'll get to that in a second. Blue crystal is good for throat chakras, which again, self-expression, I think creativity, speaking your truth. Okay. So we'll start off with the horse card. So the horse card usually represents running towards or away from something, with the hidden man in reversed, which is equivalent to the hermit card from the traditional Rider-Waite tarot. It feels like the horse kind of represents someone who didn't have the best luck in their love life, and that kind of led to this hermit energy. So it feels like these situations, which is the situation that you ended up in, weren't what you expected, or maybe some of you were kind of misled in some way. It could be, I don't know if it's, well, at least for most of you, it doesn't exactly feel like you're misled deliberately by other people, but it could just be there is some misunderstandings, or you just had a different idea of a certain situation or person in mind, and that kind of led to the hidden man in reversed. So the hidden man, or the hermit card in reverse, is usually about self-isolation. Because of these past experiences, you decided it was better to not engage with anyone and just be on your own. So there's nothing wrong with being by yourself, spending time alone, and learning about yourself that way, but there's a difference between alone time and just shutting everything and everyone out because of like some kind of trauma or past trust issues. And by the way, these traumas don't have to be like drastic. It could just be that maybe you met people that weren't compatible for you, and that kind of led to this energy. Basically, this is saying that there are more productive ways to spend time alone. With the Wolfman card in reversed, this can be taken at face value here. So the message behind the card is to basically ease up, because you're not going to find your ideal love life if you're not really aiming for it. So, like I said before, with the horse card, it could be someone running towards something or running away from something. In this context, it feels like the horse card kind of has like this energy of someone who doesn't really know where they're going, or just kind of like going from place to place. So it's like, if one thing doesn't work out, they just move on to something else. That doesn't work out, they move on to something else. And this could kind of like create like this pattern of not having like, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe not, I don't know if support systems is the word I'm looking for, but not having like the right, I guess, people, or the right, I'm thinking of the word, but it's like, by not knowing where you're going, or not having not knowing what you want, so you're just going from place to place. And also the message is to basically ease up, because yeah, again, you're not gonna find your love life, you're not really aiming for it. So basically, you kind of want to take this energy and kind of flip it around there. So this is saying that the more you isolate yourself, the more that you kind of like don't have a focus on where you're going. It's going to turn into this unfulfilled energy. And the healing card is, well, healing card in reversed is pretty much saying to cut out what isn't serving you and what is preventing you from moving on. So what is keeping you in this energy here? What's keeping you isolated? If isolation itself is keeping you back, maybe try spending more time with other people, or connect with source, or connect with something or someone, or like someone who is, you know, healthy. So it's about identifying your traumas, which again lapis lazuli can be good for. It's okay to ask for help. Reaching with an open heart makes me stronger. So this can be taken at face value. Talk with someone you can confide in, and try to find help to sort through this. I forgive myself for being hard on myself. I forgive myself for being hard on myself, for all that pressure. I am more than enough. And there is power in patience. I have all the time I need. So I feel like these two go together. This isn't saying that, or this is saying to not beat yourself up over the past, and even if you do run into some obstacles now or conflicts now, don't beat yourself up for those either. Don't waste your time, don't think you wasted all your time, because playing the could-have would-have game is pretty much a waste of time itself. And you can spend all this time, you know, reflecting back on your past and saying, you know, if I did this earlier, if I did this, if I could have done this, I should have done that. All that is basically just a waste of time, because unless you have a time machine, you're not going to really do anything unless you act on changing your situation now. So this is saying that healing may take some time, or that getting back into it isn't going to be this complete 180 switch. Maybe for some of you it can be, but if it takes some time, or it takes like a little bit of a transition to get from where you're at now to where you want to be, don't beat yourself up for not getting there as soon as you want to be. If things are kind of uncomfortable at first, don't expect that to be a bad thing, or don't take that as a sign that things are just going to be uncomfortable and bad from here on out. We have connect with earth and aromatherapy. So connect with earth. Again, there are better ways to spend your me time. At least spend it with self-care. I was watching the ASMR psychologist, and she was talking about how we can end up in this negative loop where we have a bad experience. That bad experience or event leads to negative thoughts. The negative thought leads to like a negative feeling, and that feeling influences our behavior. And then that behavior kind of like circles back to negative thoughts. So we're kind of in this loop, and the only way to get out of the loop is to change our behavior. It also reminded me of another video that I can link from Therapist in a Nutshell. So that also reminded me of Therapist in a Nutshell, who said that our brain chemistry can influence our behaviors and our thoughts, but it can also work the other way around. So by changing our behavior, we can influence our brain chemistry and our thoughts and our behavior. We can start to go into a more positive loop cycle. And specifically with Connect with Earth, you're not connecting just to the outside world, but also to your guides, your angels, patrons, nature, ancestors, or whatever resonates with you, that can help you rebalance and recenter yourself. With aromatherapy, this is more about being okay with not being productive all the time. This is more about that than it is about lighting scented candles, having essential oil diffusers, lighting incense and all that. So it is good to spend your alone time in better ways, but it doesn't mean you have to completely switch your life around where you all of a sudden you're waking up early, you're doing your morning routine, you're eating healthy, you have this skincare routine, you've been working out for 5 days a week. So it's good to do those things, but like I said before, you don't have to go into like this complete switch of doing that. It's good to take it easy. So there are things that are good. It's good to be consistent in those things, but self-care shouldn't be a tedious chore. So if you don't do a couple things on your self-care list, don't feel like you're regressing back to your old states. So that's pile number 1. Can we move on to pile number 2? Alright, pile number 2. For those of you guys who chose the Labradorite. So Labradorite is good for expanding your consciousness. It's also good for Labradorite is essentially good for expanding your consciousness, which I feel like is relevant for the second card here. So if you guys haven't seen the first pile, I recommend checking that out because the two are kind of similar in some ways. The Woodward usually reminds me of someone who is in charge or in power, besides the supposed to be reversed. But in reversed, it feels like the not only the direct opposite energy of that, but just like pile number 1, where they're being talked about ending up in a situation you didn't expect, or that you might have been misled somehow, or maybe you just had some different expectations about someone. Like you expected one thing and you got something else you didn't ask for. Because of that, it feels like you decided to just kind of like be on your own for a bit. So the energy of the Woodward is kind of like, maybe you expected something, you kind of expected like this like great thing to happen, but it kind of just like fell flat for you. With the Sun card, this is usually a positive card, but in this context, it's kind of like pile number 1, where because of these past experiences, you decided it was better to be alone or spend time by yourself. This is kind of a similar thing, or it's pile number 1. It's more like it's kind of like a more of a defeated energy of self-isolation. This is more of like I don't need anyone else, I'm just gonna do this all by myself. So from a surface value, or from a surface perspective, from a surface view, it can feel like that you're self-empowered and just like doing all these things by yourself. But if you kind of dig deep down, it's kind of misguided in some way, because this kind of comes from the mistrust of others more than the trust of yourself. And especially with the Endurance card in reversed, this is saying that if you continue with this energy of not allowing anyone in because you're afraid of being disappointed again, that's gonna still continue this self-fulfilling prophecy, and this is just gonna only justify why you're in this in the first place. The Clearance card, which can be taken as face value, is basically saying to be more open, don't close yourself off so much. So it's safe for me to feel it all. Don't be afraid of repeating the past or going into a bad situation. This is not saying that you won't run into setbacks, but learn to embrace the situations, learn to embrace the suck, learn to don't expect everything in your life to be all sunshine and roses. You're gonna run into these things, but just because you run into these things doesn't mean that it's a sign that it's not gonna work out for you, which is a similar message in power number 1. And by the way, embrace the suck is what I learned from, I believe, the Bearcast. It could be Bearcast, the Bearcast, or another podcast, or not a podcast, but or just getting news. But I do remember Bart Kwan saying to embrace the suck. If you cannot get out of that situation, just learn to deal with it. And I'm not saying that if you're in a position where life sucks, that you just have to, learn to live with it for the rest of your life. But it is saying that if you're trying to get from one place to another, or to like your desired place, you have to work through it. You have to learn to work through those issues rather than just getting to the issues and just being just like, oh, well, this is not gonna work for me. I'll just turn around and just like do something a lot easier. So I see challenge as a good gift, and it's just my evolution. So just basically what I just said before, learn from situations instead of just setting yourself off. Learn to embrace these situations, learn to work through them. Again, going back to this, it is safe for me to feel it all. Don't ignore your negative feelings or negative feelings. If you get, for example, if you get upset or angry, or if you fall into, like maybe you meet someone and it triggers like these past memories, and identify those triggers, but don't take it as a sign that you should just be alone because this experience justified you being here, if any of that makes sense. I might be rambling on, but moving on to the Oracle cards, the self-care Oracle cards. So we have Connect with the Moon, which is similar to Connect with Earth with the previous card. So connect with your guides, your ancestors, your inner self, nature, whatever helps you connect and rebalance you. If you do feel like you're kind of like you're going back to that energy of mistrusting people, or something triggers you, go back to this here and learn to identify what that is. The music card. This doesn't have to be about music, but it is about creativity and expressing yourself, finding your authentic self. Oh, and like I said, about expanding your consciousness. So this, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but anyways, this is kind of like the misguided energy of feeling like you have to do things alone. Like I said before, this is you going to the energy because of mistrust more than trusting yourself. So Labradorite, not exclusively, but Labradorite can help you expand your consciousness and kind of dig deeper into why you feel this way. Connect with your womb. So if any of you guys are guys watching this again is not exactly literal. This is more about connecting to your femininity, or at least in the context of this reading, we're connected to your femininity. It's also about being nurturing, which again goes back to this here. Be more nurturing, be more open, especially towards yourself. Take care of yourself, but also give. So that was pile number 2. Sorry if that was kind of all over the place, but also don't feel like re-recording this, so we're just going to leave it at that. I'm going to move on to pile number 3. Alright, pawn number 3 with the rutilated quartz, which I cannot say. So the rutilated quartz is good for uplifting your spirits, hiring your consciousness, connecting with angels. Someone also told me it's good for problem solving, which I'm guessing is because you're connecting with your angels or your guides. So this is the third time I'm recording this. First time, I know what happened the first time. Second time, I forgot to hit record, so we're going to do this all over again. So if it feels a little bit rushed or a little bit quicker, that's going to be why. So start off with 10 of arrows. So 10 of arrows shows this older man helping guide the arrow this kid is shooting. In most cases, this is about mentorship. But in this reading, it feels like the kid is being a little bit too reliant on the teacher to guide the arrow. So the kid would of course represent you. And this doesn't have to be an actual person. It's not like you're like going to one person saying, should I take this person, should I not take this person? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but for some of you it could just be that you're relying on others or some other ideas of what you should or shouldn't date instead of trusting yourself. However, with the decision card, it just looks like you do realize that, and you decide to take that power back. You decide on what you want. So not only is this about being decisive, but by being more decisive, being more direct in what you want, and knowing what you want, you are more focused, which means that you're not having all this wasted energy. So with the instruction card, it may feel like by depending on others to kind of guide you to where you need to be, it might feel like you're being guided, or that you're not wasting energy. But at the end of the day, if you're kind of like going from place to place, person to person, and you're not knowing why, it could just be that, or not knowing why, but if you're going from place to place, person to person, and you're realizing that being too reliant on other opinions is not the way to go, this kind of cuts that out. Not sure if that's made any sense, but basically you're not wasting energy. You're focusing on yourself, you're trusting yourself, you're focusing on that singular thing, that singular goal. It doesn't have to be a singular person, it has to be a specific person, but you're more specific in what you do want. And because of that, because of you being more specific and you being more focused, the path there is going to be a lot easier. So the world tree of the world is about completion. So this is about saying that you will get to your goals. Just keep up what you're doing. Just be more decisive. Be just like be more focused. I know I'm saying that word a lot, but I guess that's the main message of this thing. Be more focused. Be more specific on what you want. And by doing so, not only are you going to get to, your manifestations here, but if you look at the maze or whatever it is, you can see that it's not a complicated maze. It's not you're going to go in these like loops where you're going to get lost, or at least from the top down view. And this is saying that even if you do run into setbacks, run into complications, from the top down view, your guides, your angels, they can see a way out of it. They can see that where you are, it's not as bad as you think it is, or where you may end up, it's not going to be as bad as you think it is. You just have to, again, expand your consciousness of your vibrations, kind of like go at it from a kind of like a top-down view, instead of like focusing on where you are now, having this tunnel vision, kind of like zoom out and see where you are and problem solve that way. This is making sense, but you just comment down below if it doesn't, so I can just expound on that. The joy card is for which I face value, raise your vibrations, do things, hang out with people that help raise your vibrations, keep doing what you're doing, hang out with loved ones. It's also a lot easier to raise your vibrations. It's a lot easier to manifest what you want by being in this high vibrational energy of having it, especially if it's about having unconditional love. So hang out with people that, you know, that really support you and love you. Make a vision board. So, like I said before, it's good to be specific what you want, but also make it visual. You can write a list of traits that you do want. Not only are you reminding yourself of this, but it's kind of like by seeing it every day or seeing it often, you kind of remind yourself of your goals. And also, if you write down what you want, for example, you want a person who is very nurturing, you want a person who is caring, you want a person who is trustworthy. By seeing those qualities listed down, it also reminds you to have those things in yourself. So it's not like you can attract a trustworthy person if you're not trustworthy yourself. Watch a movie. This doesn't have to be literal. It's more about spending time with loved ones. It could be your pets as well. Spending time with things or people that raise your vibrations, that make you feel connected to unconditional love. Deep breathing. Connect with your inner self. It's okay to have alone time, but also learn to trust yourself more. This is also saying to find healthier ways to de-stress. For example, if you're running into conflicts with other people, go into yourself, go within yourself instead of reverting back to old habits. Especially if you come from a place where you subconsciously thought you weren't going to find the right person. Take a different approach and identify those triggers with it's coming out of your head. Just also going back to connecting with the universe, the angels, kind of helping or kind of asking them to help like problem solve. But with I give myself to my intuition, this is more about trusting yourself. So it is good to ask for help, but again, try not to like depend on that help to guide that. Try not to revert back to that old energy. So trust yourself more, but it is also about the journey. I give myself permission to trust my intuition. I need to have all the answers. My heart knows the way. So this is about the journey, trusting your journey, and again, trusting yourself. Even if you may not have met the people that weren't right for you or just weren't compatible, be more focused on what you want more than what you don't want. So that's point number 3. And as usual, all my links and stuff are down below. And that's the end of the video.